Life is hard. Let's just start there. It's bloody difficult, and if anyone tells you otherwise, they're either lying, delusional, or they've been shielded from the reality of human suffering. You're going to encounter loss. You're going to face betrayal. You'll be confronted by failure, heartbreak, chaos, and death. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And what you'll discover in the process is that the real question isn't, how do I avoid the pain? That's a child's question. The real grown-up question is, who do I have to become so that I can carry it and still move forward with integrity? And here's the truth. Here's what nobody tells you in the age of soft comforts and digital illusions. Tough people are good people. That may sound counterintuitive. You've been told that toughness is harsh, that it's cruel, that it's somehow unkind. But that's a shallow interpretation of strength. What I'm talking about is not brutality. I'm talking about resilience with responsibility. Talking about fortitude guided by virtue. I'm talking about the kind of toughness that bears the unbearable, so others don't have to. That kind of toughness is the highest moral good. And we need more of it. Keynote 1: Toughness is not violence. It's voluntary suffering for a higher good. Let's clarify something. Toughness is not aggression. It's not rage. It's not domination. True toughness is the ability to endure. Suffering voluntarily, mind you, for the sake of something more meaningful than your own comfort. There's a concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth. It describes how some people after trauma don't just recover, they get better. They become more mature, more responsible, more grateful, more compassionate. How? They voluntarily integrate their pain into their character? They don't collapse into victimhood. They grow through it, and that requires toughness, not the kind that punches a wall when things go wrong, but the kind that builds a shelter when everyone else is panicking in the storm, the father who works a double shift to put food on the table. That's a tough man. The mother who loses her child but still finds a way to support other grieving parents, that's a tough woman. These are the people who hold civilization together, not celebrities, not influencers, the tough people, the good people. 2. Softness without principle creates decay. Toughness with integrity creates order. We are in danger, culturally speaking, of worshiping the aesthetic of kindness without the responsibility of moral action. It's fashionable today to be nice. But nice doesn't mean good. Nice is passive. Nice is agreeable. Nice avoids conflict. But the truth is, real goodness often requires confrontation. Real goodness demands that you say no to what's wrong even when it costs you. Real goodness sometimes is saying, I will not comply. And to do that, to stand for something when everything in the world wants you to sit down, requires a tough spine. Because if you don't have it, you'll crumble into appeasement. You'll choose ease over truth. And the world doesn't need more agreeable cowards. It needs tough men and women of character, of courage, of clarity, and hear me. Toughness alone isn't enough. The mafia is tough. Tyrants are tough. What matters is toughness in service of virtue. That's what creates order out of chaos. That's what makes someone not just strong, but good. Keynote 3: Life will test you. Will you rise or will you rot? Here's another brutal truth. Life is going to test you. It will break you in places you didn't know existed. You will lose people. You will fail at things that matter deeply to you. You will encounter chaos internal and external. And when that happens, you will be faced with a choice. Do I rise or do I rot? If you rot, you'll become bitter, resentful, nihilistic. You'll blame everyone else. You'll shrink from life. You'll become a shell of who you were meant to be. But if you rise, if you say, this won't break me, it will build me. If you use that pain as fuel, then you become one of the rare people capable of making a difference. One of the rare people who can look another broken soul in the eyes and say, I've been there, I didn't run. And neither should you. That kind of toughness is sacred. Keynote 4: Your suffering must have meaning. That's the moral path. I've spent decades studying psychology, mythology, scripture, and human behavior. And if there's one theme that keeps emerging, it's this: suffering is inevitable. But meaningless suffering is hell. So what do? You give your suffering meaning. You carry it for a higher purpose. That's what makes you good. That's what makes you heroic. The soldier who risks his life to protect the innocent. The nurse who works overtime to care for the dying. The addict who stays sober one more day to show his kids that people can change. All of these are acts of spiritual toughness. They're a refusal to let suffering degrade them, and a commitment to let suffering redeem them, and that is the heart of moral goodness, closing a call to the listener. So if you're going through hell right now, don't quit. Don't numb yourself. Don't escape. Endure it. Transform it. Let it shape you into the kind of person the world desperately needs. Be the man who doesn't fold under pressure. Be the woman who doesn't flee in fear. Be the kind of person who faces chaos with a sword in one hand and love in the other, because I'm telling you, tough people are good people. And the world needs more of both. So don't skip this. Not just this speech, this calling. Don't skip the weight that could shape you. Don't skip the pain that could perfect you. Don't skip the responsibility that could elevate you, because when you step into that fire with courage and conscience, you don't just become strong, you become good. You are a nation that was built not on ease, not on privilege, but on perseverance. You came from fire, from war, from wilderness, from famine and dust and blood and dreams. And today, as you sit in your car or your kitchen or your hospital bed, there is a question facing you. A question that is more pressing now than it's ever been. Who are you becoming in the face of this chaos? Are you shrinking, or are you growing? Are you breaking down, or are you stepping up? Because make no mistake, this world is hard. This nation is struggling. There's political division, spiritual confusion, economic uncertainty, and a generational crisis of meaning. Our young people are anxious, lost, and sedated. Our elders feel ignored. Our families are fragmented. And many of our men and women have forgotten what it means to carry real responsibility. But here's the thing, America. Tough times have never broken you. They've built you. And if you want to save this nation, save your marriage, save your sanity, or even just save your soul, you're going to need to become something most people are afraid to be these days. Tough. Keynote 1. True toughness isn't brutality, it's moral endurance toughness. The word itself conjures images of strength, grit, and perhaps a clenched jaw standing firm against adversity. But what has been so tragically lost in our modern conversations is the depth of what true toughness really means. We've reduced the idea to something shallow, something harsh, something detached from virtue. But true toughness isn't about how loud you can shout, or how hard you can hit, or how stoically you suppress emotion. No, true toughness is far more noble, far more demanding, and far more necessary than brute force. It is moral endurance, the ability to remain upright, responsible, and ethically rooted in the midst of chaos, suffering, and temptation. We must understand something foundational. Brutality and strength are not synonymous. In fact, they are often opposites. A brute lashes out because he is weak, he has no control over himself. He reacts, he seeks domination to hide his insecurity. He harms because he cannot handle being harmed. But a strong man, a strong woman, they do not need to dominate. They don't need to bark orders or flex their authority, because they are governed not by fear, but by principle. Their toughness is internal. It is built on discipline, delayed gratification, emotional regulation, and a relentless commitment to doing what is right, not what is easy. This kind of toughness is quiet. It often goes unnoticed. It doesn't parade itself in public. But it is precisely the kind of toughness that holds a nation together, that stabilizes families, that models heroism to children, and that turns ordinary individuals into extraordinary leaders. True toughness, moral endurance requires a soul that has stared into the abyss and said, I will not become what I despise. It is the single mother who chooses dignity over despair, the blue-collar worker who shows up day after day without complaint, the teenager who chooses to study instead of self-destruction. These are not grand gestures, but they are heroic. One's dot. When society idolizes only physical power, only dominance, we create monsters in suits and broken souls with bank accounts. We admire external symbols of control, but overlook the rotting moral foundations underneath. That's not strength, it's a costume. And what this country desperately needs, what the world needs, is men and women who are internally fortified, not externally polished, who can handle hardship without becoming bitter, who can be insulted without retaliating, who can hold themselves accountable even when no one is watching, because if you can't carry yourself with honor in the storm, your toughness is worthless. Let's ask something difficult now. What do we teach our young people about strength? What messages are we giving them in our schools, our media, our conversations at the dinner table? Not just any kind of tough. Tough with heart, tough with faith, tough with integrity, because tough people are good people. Keynote 2. The cost of cowardice is chaos. There's a silent epidemic sweeping through the culture, not a virus. Not a financial crisis, but a spiritual cowardice that is rotting institutions, weakening families, and confusing the very fabric of morality. And it doesn't come dressed in the form of obvious evil. It comes dressed as politeness, as tolerance, as vague niceness. But make no mistake, cowardice, when given power, breeds chaos. Why? Because when the people who know what's right refuse to speak, when those with wisdom stay silent, when those with courage shrink in fear of backlash, the only voices left are those who are loud, lost, and dangerous. Society does not stay neutral in the absence of virtue. It deteriorates. It confuses darkness with freedom. It confuses rebellion with individuality. And worst of all, it rewards weakness as a moral high ground. We must confront this plainly. Cowardice does not protect peace. It protects decay. It enables lies. It breeds dysfunction. It rewards mediocrity. And in the long run, it always demands a higher price than courage ever would. Consider this. How many families are broken not because someone was too strong, but because someone was too weak to be honest? How many schools have turned into battlegrounds of confusion, not because discipline was enforced, but because discipline was abandoned? How many political leaders have bowed to public opinion instead of standing on principle? And how many young people have been robbed of strength because adults were too afraid to offend them with the truth? This is the great paradox. When we avoid discomfort in the short term, we multiply destruction in the long term. Courage does not mean being reckless. It doesn't mean being rude. It doesn't mean shouting at strangers or dominating a debate. Courage means standing in the storm and saying, "I will not lie, even if it costs me everything." It means telling your child no, even if it breaks your heart. It means admitting when you're wrong, even when your pride begs you to pretend. It means choosing the narrow road of accountability instead of the wide road of excuses. When you give cowardice power, you invite tyrants in your household, in your government, in your soul. Because where courage is absent, manipulation takes its place. People start playing games instead of speaking plainly. They say what others want to hear instead of what's true. They smile in public and seethe in private. That's not peace. That's passive decay. True peace can only come from order built on truth. And truth demands courage. Imagine a father who refuses to discipline his son because he's afraid of damaging their relationship. He thinks he's being loving, but over time the child grows entitled, bitter, directionless. And eventually that same father finds that he no longer has the respect of his child. Because love without discipline is not love. It's cowardice masquerading as compassion. Or consider a teacher who refuses to uphold standards because she's afraid of backlash from parents or administration, so she lowers the bar. Everyone passes, but over time the students realize they haven't learned anything. They don't trust the system anymore. Excellence dies and resentment grows. Or consider yourself. What have you not said that needed to be said? What truths have you hidden under the rug because it was too painful to confront them? What relationships have you damaged not by being too bold, but by being too afraid? Every time we give in to cowardice, we forfeit strength. We lose a bit of our integrity. And over time, that erosion leads to a collapse not just of personal character, but of entire civilizations. If we are to rebuild a culture of strength, a culture of resilience, a culture of depth, then courage must return to the center of our homes, our institutions, and our souls. This kind of courage is not impulsive. It is cultivated. It is learned through small, daily acts of responsibility, through telling the truth when it's hard, through keeping your word when it's inconvenient, through taking the hit so others don't have to, because only when courage is practiced consistently, deliberately, humbly does it become the foundation of a stable, meaningful life. And without that, all we have left is noise, fear, and entropy. So ask yourself now, not tomorrow, where have you been passive when you should have been principled? Where have you allowed comfort to outrank character? And what would happen not just in your life, but in this country, if just 10% of people chose conviction over cowardice? You don't need to change the whole world. You need to stand firm in your part of it. That's how chaos is reversed. One person, one home, one truth at a time. Are good people. Keynote 3. Discipline is the daily decision to rise even when it hurts. Discipline has become a misunderstood word. In many circles today, it's almost offensive, interpreted as harsh, oppressive, or even toxic. But nothing could be further from the truth. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is the foundation of it. Without discipline, you are not free. You are a slave to your impulses, your laziness, your fear. True discipline is not about punishing the body. It's about training the soul. Every single day, whether consciously or not, you are making a decision. Do I follow what I feel like doing, or do I follow what I know I must do? That one decision repeated over time builds the quality of your character. It determines your future. It shapes your identity. Because your feelings, as real and intense as they are, cannot be trusted to lead you. They fluctuate. They're shaped by weather, sleep, hormones, diet, social media, and ego. But discipline is the compass that keeps you from drifting into chaos. Discipline is the quiet voice that wakes you up in the morning and says, "Get up. You have work to do." It's the force that says no to that second drink, to the snooze button, to the toxic relationship, to the tempting shortcut. Discipline says, "You're better than this. You were made for more." It's not glamorous. No one's clapping when you skip dessert or hit the gym when you're exhausted. No one gives you a trophy for doing what's right when no one is watching, but those small, invisible victories, they are the building blocks of greatness. People love to celebrate talent. They admire genius. They applaud beauty. But none of those things mean anything without discipline. What good is intelligence if you don't apply it? What good is potential if you don't train it? What good is charisma if you can't control it? Talent may open a door, but only discipline keeps it open. You can inherit gifts, but you must build character. And character is what sustains you when the applause fades, when the opportunities dry up, and when life demands more than you think you can give. Discipline requires a fundamental shift in how you see yourself. You must stop asking, "What do I feel like doing?" and start asking, "What kind of person am I becoming?" That shift changes everything, because it forces you to rise above the emotional fog and reconnect with your vision. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop blaming others. You take radical ownership of your time, your habits, your values, and suddenly the mundane becomes meaningful. The act of making your bed becomes an act of order. The way you treat your coworkers becomes a test of integrity. The food you eat becomes a reflection of your self-respect. And let's be clear, discipline is painful. It involves sacrifice. It will cost you relationships, comfort, and convenience. It will expose your laziness, your entitlement, your excuses, but that pain is the price of transformation. Because without pain, there is no progress. There is no growth. Every muscle only strengthens through resistance. Every character trait only deepens through trial. Discipline hurts, but it hurts in a way that heals. Compare that to the pain of regret. That's the pain that doesn't heal. The pain of knowing you wasted your time. The pain of missed opportunities. The pain of becoming someone you don't respect. That's a far heavier burden than waking up at 5 a.m. or sticking to a budget. Discipline is the pain that leads to freedom. Regret is the pain that leads to slavery. Now think about the society that emerges when discipline is neglected. What happens when no one is taught to delay gratification? When everyone follows their feelings instead of their principles? You get chaos, you get fragile adults. You get leaders who lie because the truth is too uncomfortable. You get children who are never corrected and grow into adults who never take responsibility. Discipline isn't just personal, it's cultural. It sets the standard. It stabilizes communities. It guards the gates of civilization. In every field, whether it's athletics, business, parenting, art, or faith, the same pattern emerges. The people who make the most difference are not the ones who had the most talent, but the ones who had the most discipline. The ones who showed up every day, who studied the extra hour, who gave even when they were exhausted, who said no to distractions, who stayed loyal when it was hard. Discipline builds consistency. And consistency builds legacy. The most dangerous lie of modern times is that greatness should be easy. That if you're doing what you love, it should never feel like work. That struggle is a sign you're on the wrong path, but nothing could be more false. Struggle is the refining fire. Resistance is the birthplace of strength. Anything worth building, whether it's a career, a relationship, a mission, requires daily sacrifice. And the ability to make those sacrifices is what separates the noble from the mediocre. And let us not forget, discipline is contagious. When a father becomes disciplined, the whole household feels it. When a teacher lives with discipline, the students learn more than what's in the textbooks. When a community upholds discipline, Keynote 5, you will be judged by how much pain you can carry. Without breaking, pain is not the enemy. It's the revealer. It uncovers who you really are beneath the smiles, the pretense, the curated image. Pain strips away illusion. And in those raw moments when life punches you in the gut and every piece of you wants to collapse, the world watches, even if silently, and asks one question: can you carry it? You will be judged not by how much success you have, not by how easy your life looks, but by how much pain you can endure without turning bitter, without blaming everyone else, without running. This judgment isn't cruel, it's not shallow. It's the natural assessment that every soul makes, consciously or unconsciously, about who is strong and who is fragile, who can be trusted and who will fold. Because in this life, suffering is inevitable. So the question is never, will you hurt? The question is, what will you become through that hurt? Think about the people you most admire. Are they the ones who had everything handed to them? Or are they the ones who endured what seemed unendurable and didn't just survive, but somehow emerged with dignity, with grace, with wisdom? There is a deep truth that has been lost in modern culture. That suffering, when carried with honor, is the birthplace of virtue. It is the forge where strength is created. You cannot develop compassion if you've never tasted despair. You cannot become patient unless you've endured delay. You cannot possess courage if you've never been afraid. The people who have the most to offer the world are often the ones who have bled the most quietly, but we live in a time where avoiding pain is the ultimate pursuit. Comfort has become the highest goal. Do what feels right. Live your truth. Don't let anyone judge you. These slogans, repeated like sacred mantras, seduce people into weakness. They strip them of responsibility. They elevate emotion above endurance. And the result is a generation increasingly unprepared to face life as it truly is, brutal, beautiful, and utterly indifferent to your feelings. Life doesn't care how sensitive you are. It doesn't care how unfair things have been. It doesn't slow down for your trauma. It doesn't pause because you feel anxious. What life does reward, what it does elevate, is resilience. Not the fake kind that pretends nothing hurts, but the deep, disciplined resilience that stands back up when it would be easier to stay down. You see, every time pain comes into your life, you are handed a choice. Will I let this wound define me, or will I allow it to refine me? That choice is what separates those who become leaders from those who become liabilities. Pain can either break your spirit or it can break your ego. One makes you stronger. The other makes you smaller. And here's the truth. The more you carry pain well, the more others trust you. They begin to lean on your strength. They seek your guidance. They respect your words not because you sound smart, but because your wisdom has been baptized in fire. People trust those who suffer honestly and still choose to love, still choose to serve, still choose to get up again and again, but make no mistake, carrying pain well does not mean hiding it. It does not mean pretending everything's fine. That's not strength, that's denial. Real strength is being honest about your wounds, but refusing to let them infect your character. It's saying, yes, I've been through hell, but I'm not going to use that as a weapon or an excuse. It's turning your scars into tools for building, not symbols of destruction. And sometimes the greatest pain you'll face isn't external. It's internal. It's the weight of your own failures, the shame of what you did or didn't do. It's the regret that haunts your quiet moments. That pain is often the heaviest and the most redemptive, because it forces you to confront yourself, to take ownership. And if you're willing, it can lead you to a place of deep humility where true transformation begins. But again, this only happens if you're willing to carry that pain with integrity, to sit with it, to learn from it, to refuse the easy outs, numbing, blaming, escaping, and instead wrestle with the discomfort until it teaches you what you must become. Pain is a brutal teacher, but if you listen, it will give you a power that comfort never could. In the old world, elders were not respected because of their titles. They were revered because of the pain they had endured and endured well. Their wisdom was paid for in sleepless nights, in funerals, in battlefields, in heartbreak. Their faces told stories. Their eyes carried history. Their strength wasn't loud, but it was immovable. That is the kind of strength the world is dying to see again, and perhaps most importantly, the way you carry pain affects not just you, but everyone who watches you, your children, your friends, your community. When they see you go through suffering and remain kind, they learn what it means to love. When they watch you face hardship and still hold on to truth, they begin to believe that morality is not fragile, that faith is not foolish, that dignity is not dead. This is the test of life. And make no mistake, it is coming for everyone. The illness, the betrayal, the loss, the disappointment. No one escapes it, but some rise through it. And they rise not because they are special, but because they decide to carry the weight, to stand in the storm, and to say with their life, "You may hit me, but you will not have me." You will be judged by how much pain you can carry without breaking. And that judgment will not come from critics or crowds, but from history, from the people you love, and most of all, from the person you become. Keynote 6. Comfort is the real enemy. It makes you forget who you're capable of becoming. Comfort is seductive. It lulls you into stillness. It whispers that you've earned the right to rest, to slow down, to take it easy. And in small doses, that's true. Rest is essential. Recovery is wise. But when comfort becomes a way of life, when it becomes the default rather than the exception, it begins to rot your potential from the inside out. Comfort is the real enemy because it is invisible. Unlike failure, it doesn't sting. Unlike pain, it doesn't scream, it creeps. It seeps into your schedule, your habits, your conversations. It convinces you that excellence is optional, that ambition is arrogant, that struggle is outdated. And so slowly, day by day, you forget who you're capable of becoming. What's so dangerous about comfort is that it feels good. And that's the trap. It provides temporary relief while stealing permanent fulfillment. You think you're safe, but you're just stagnant. You're not at peace, you're sedated. You're not free, you're stuck. Because deep down, a part of you knows that you're not living at full capacity, that you've traded purpose for ease. Comfort kills dreams more effectively than fear ever could. Fear at least acknowledges danger. Comfort denies that there's a war even happening. And that's why it's so effective. It convinces you that you're fine, that mediocrity is a reasonable goal, that coasting is sustainable. But life doesn't allow you to coast forever. Gravity always kicks in. And if you're not growing, you're falling. In every person, there is a version of themselves they haven't met yet. A version forged through fire, pressure, discomfort, and grit. A version that only comes alive when comfort is denied. When you willingly step into challenge, into conflict, into responsibility. That person is not found in easy mornings or predictable routines. That person is waiting on the other side of your resistance. Comfort tricks you into thinking you have time to figure it out, time to get serious later. But you don't. Every day you spend coddled by comfort is a day you drift from your destiny, a day your muscles weaken, your clarity fades, your edge dulls, and eventually you look in the mirror and see someone who once had fire and now only has flicker. The greatest tragedies in history were not just caused by evil, but by comfort. By people who knew something was wrong but chose not to act, chose not to speak, chose to stay safe. That's what comfort does. It makes you silent when you should speak, passive when you should move, indifferent when you should care. And it disguises this as wisdom, as prudence, as being realistic. But it's cowardice wrapped in velvet. You must become uncomfortable intentionally, not recklessly but purposefully. Stretch your body, stretch your mind. Learn things that challenge your worldview. Do things that scare you. Engage in conversations that expose your ignorance. Volunteer for roles that demand more than you think you can give. That is how you grow. That is how you wake up. Comfort tells you that you're good enough. Growth tells you that you could be more. And not out of shame, but out of responsibility. Out of calling, because you were not born to simply consume. You were born to contribute, to build, to lead. And that mission requires sweat. It requires mistakes. It requires friction. It requires discomfort. Comfort is a liar. It tells you that the pain of discipline is worse than the pain of regret. It tells you that success is luck and that effort is futile. It tells you that you can have results without sacrifice, that you can be respected without earning it. And if you believe those lies long enough, you become resentful of those who rise. You begin to hate the strong. You mock the disciplined. Because deep down, you know they've rejected what you've accepted, but you can turn around. At any point, you can say no more. No more living beneath your capability. No more giving in to excuses. No more treating your life like it's a rehearsal. You get one shot at this. One brief, fleeting chance to become all that you were made to be, and that future, that glorious, powerful, breathtaking version of you, it's waiting.